So you want to set effective goals, and all you can find on the internet was how to set smart or smarter goals. Actually, the SMART step is just the last 10% of the journey, and maybe you've been missing out on the other 90% of the fun stuff. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you 4 tips on setting up effective goals for your life even before the SMART step. There's evidence to back this up, and it will definitely help you with your planning. So the first tip I want to share is don't force yourself to multitask whenever you set your goal. This is a very good advice and is proven with brain science. Our brain has the ability to get things done and is called executive function. This ability has been a hot topic of neuroscience research for many years, and one characteristic of executive function is that it operates consciously, which means that it requires and will focus conscious attention to solve only one problem at a time, while simultaneously restricting irrelevant information. One simple trick to test this is by doing mental math. You can try solving 2 calculations like 14 times 17 and 16 times 18. Notice how you will not be able to solve them at the same time in your brain, and you have to do it one by one. For each single calculation, from getting the input data, processing the data, getting the result, the whole process is actually supported by a huge portion of your brain, both left and right. In science terms, it involves the prefrontal and parietal cortices. This mental process stands true not only in doing math, but for every other activities that require executive function. Now you might argue that you can do 1 + 1 and 2 + 2 at the same time, so multitasking is possible. That's not wrong, but when you think about it, maybe it just happens so fast that you think it happens at the same time. And secondly, it only works with simple, easy tasks like reading, or with tasks that you have practiced many times over. When you do one task repeatedly, over and over again, with the same input data and getting the same result, your brain will actually remember this action to the point where you will instantly know the result when you do that same task again. The system involved in this action is shifted from the huge chunk of prefrontal and parietal cortices to the small and humble striatum. This is where your action becomes automated, leaving room for your brain to receive and process new data. This can explain why experts are 10 times better than normies, and they can multitask very well. That's because they're already 10 steps ahead of you in a matter of seconds, and they can head straight into the answers with little effort. But we are not talking about experts. We're talking about how you can set your goal effectively, and the first step to do it is to do only one action at a time, since that is the limited capacity of your brain. So tip number 1 is to do one thing at a time. For the second tip I want to share is that you should set your priorities very carefully. In other words, you should understand your goal very clearly. Setting priority is not as simple as writing down your goals and arranging them in the order of completion. You have to do more than that to convince your brain that it's worth doing, or else your brain will convince you to stick to the current ways of living. Executive function is effortful. That means our brain demands effort, and it will give you a sense of effort whenever you try to execute an action. Neuroscientists have shown that this effortful characteristics is related to the first half of the cingulate cortex, which can track the amount of mental work a task requires, and it can scale this sensation inversely with the potential payoff. Because we can only focus on doing one task at a time, doing one action is the same as foregoing other opportunities. If your goal is significantly more important than the other tasks, you will feel effortless and completing your goal will be just a breeze. For example, you can spend one night to do research and write an essay that usually takes a week to complete, and you will breeze through it without much distraction. That is because you know how important it is to submit your essay on time and the consequences of missing the deadlines. On the other hand, if your task is not as important as the alternatives, it will feel very effortful and very hard to complete, like when you're trying to play video games right before your final exam. This mechanism also works in setting your goals. Trying to complete your goals is the same as missing out on every other entertaining opportunities. So you have to make sure your goal is significant enough to outweigh all the alternatives. The problem here is that your body has gotten used to the way it's been living for many years, so surely it will know how good it feels when you're lazing around, whereas your ideal life is in the future and is unknown to your brain. To combat this, the easy way is to flood yourself with information. You can do research on the internet about the advantages and disadvantages, the expected outcomes as well as the challenges, and try to match it with your dream life to motivate yourself. If possible, try to have a talk with whoever has completed the same goals before, and even try to experience the outcomes and the challenges of what you are dreaming of. This is why having someone to guide you is so valuable. And after having such experiences and knowledge, it will be easier for you to actually convince your brain to prioritize your actions, and in turn, your brain will make them become easier to do. So to summarize for this second tip, in order to have an effective goal, you need to know exactly why it is important and why it needs to be prioritized, not just simply writing it down as priorities. If you do this step well, it will be much easier for you to achieve your dream because you will have the home brain becoming your ally. So tip number 2 is set your priorities very carefully. For the next tip, whenever you set a goal, you should start small and reward yourself if possible. If your goal is to do one big action in a day and never do it again, then you can start with however big you can handle. But it's a different story when you plan to take actions for several days and even want to build a habit for yourself. In this case, you should start from small things first and then gradually increase the scale. You know that our brain can only focus on one thing at a time and can make things easier or harder depends on how much you prioritize it. But that is just about an action in a given time. If you want to maintain your action day after day, you have to combat another mechanism of the brain, and that is the reinforced learning cycle, or you may know it as the dopamine reward system. It means that when a behavior is rewarded, it's reinforced to be repeated again in the future. For example, a few hours of extra sleep in the morning is rewarded with a pleasant feeling, so it's unlikely that you will wake up early. Eating deep-fried food is rewarded with a special sensation of crispy bites, so you would love to choose fried chicken over cucumber salad. Reading books is rewarded with knowledge and peace, so you would choose to stay home and read rather than going out shopping. You can see that your own behaviors have been rewarded and reinforced very heavily, so breaking them will not be easy. That's why your appropriate strategy here is to start small and find the rewards. The smaller the action, the easier it will go into your brain. Even small actions like doing 3 push-ups a day, take a walk for 5 minutes a day, or even switching from deep frying to air frying are all considerable efforts and better than doing nothing. And that's about the small action. The tricky part in this step is to find the appropriate rewards. A number of research has pointed out that rewards are not limited to physical properties like money, food, drinks, clothes, but also emotions. And the value of reward is subjective to each individual, which means that there's no absolute formula for reward, even when you consider using money. Can you imagine how hard it would be to make billionaires change their habits by using money? So the only recommendation here is that you should reflect on what you like and try to identify your rewards. It's best to identify the reward as the joy while you are experiencing the action, because it will help you to stick with the plan better. Like when you feel the calmness and fresh air when you wake up early and take a walk, or when you love the sweat and the pain of doing your push-ups. And remember, this tip is about reinforced learning, so start small and reward yourself. It's just the beginning. You will have to reinforce your new cycle of action reward over and over again to drill it into your brain and reinforce it further, breaking the old habits and eventually make it become the new habit. So for tip number 3, you should start small and reward yourself. The final tip I want to share in this video is you should try to increase the connection between your identity and your goal. It might be difficult to understand, but let me tell you a study done in the year of 2007. In that study, the participants were asked to complete a hand grip test twice. After completing the test for the first time, some randomly selected participants were told that the hand grip test was actually to measure their willpower. And surprisingly, for those who were told that the test measured their willpower, they had their results improve significantly. And it didn't stop there. The study also looked at the ability to do math while watching comedy clips. Again, for the participants who were told that this test was to measure their willpower, they had better results and they were able to resist the comedy videos better compared to the other participants who were unaware of the situation. This clearly indicates that you should link your goal to yourself more for a better success. You can try and make connections between your goal with what you're good at, what you're proud of, and what you want to become. For example, instead of saying, I will take a walk for 5 minutes in the morning, try saying, I will gather the natural energy for 5 minutes in the morning. Instead of saying, I will practice singing for 30 minutes, try saying, I will become Taylor Swift in the next 30 minutes. Another trick to do this is to actually transform the verbs into the nouns. For example, try using singer instead of singing, using mathematician instead of doing math exercise, using a healthy person instead of going to the gym. This trick will make these actions become more identity relevant, more connected to someone, which is you in this case. And it can help you with motivation. Again, these things can be as generalized as a willpower test, but can also be very specific and individualized, so there is no specific formula to apply this tip. However, with enough experiment, you can figure out your own set of identity relevant goals, and hopefully they will move you far and forward to pursue your dream. So instead of writing down boring commands in your plan book, try making your goals lively by connecting them to you, with what you like, with what you're proud of, with what you want to become. And that's the final tip in this video. Try to connect your goal with your own identity. So that's all for today. I hope this video is gonna be helpful for you. If you like this video, please consider to be a supporter for the channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.